So I just wanted to greet everybody this morning, and I really wanted to thank Amy for that gracious introduction, and to my sister Michelle, and for Catherine for allowing me to be on the panel, and for Mama Bear, always pushing forward and always creating space for individuals like myself. And all of these women create space for other women, which I think is extremely vital. And so I would also like to just acknowledge the audience, for taking time out of your day and to try to connect with us in this moral obligation, right? And so when we talk about violence and when we talk about these disparities that are happening within indigenous communities, the history is absolutely vital in understanding how did we get here. And so for some people that are just waking up to this issue or just getting familiar with it, or maybe not at all, this is a survival piece. So having opportunities within institutions to be able to speak our truth and to be able to bring acknowledgement and honor to our sisters, to our mothers. I'm sure all of you love something in your life. And if you loved it with everything you had and you lost it, you would absolutely feel the need and the pull and the desire to dedicate whatever time, whatever energy you could to bring acknowledgement to your family, to your community, to yourself, because our families are extremely important. And so when Michelle talks about how we were able to cultivate ceremony and being with one another, that's the place in which we are working to get back to. And so violence against Indigenous women, violence against European Americans, European Canadians, European um, people of descent, um, we're all in this really big space of violence against women in general, violence against the earth, violence. And so when we look at where did this mentality start? Where was it where was the inception? And so when we talk about the doctrine of discovery, when we talk about what happens in our intimate relationships, what happens in the mentality that says I have the right or I have the ability to say whose life is worth more than the other. And so there's several there. This is an extremely multi-layered situation, because a lot of times these women are already in extremely vulnerable situations. And so we all know vulnerable people like women and children are targets for people who feel the need to exert their own inability to hold power, so they try to take that from other people. So when we're trying to hold the justice system accountable, when we're trying to hold our community accountable, when we're trying to hold these outside governing systems accountable, that is absolutely our job and our direct role and responsibility as Indigenous women, as Indigenous stewards, as creators, as gatekeepers to the coming generations, that I did everything I could to make this land and this home a better place for our children, a better place for your children. Because and in any real natural situation, our children are always willing to embrace one another, no matter what your background is, no matter what your family. And so over time we become conditioned. So we're trying to break through all of that toxicity. We're trying to break through an awareness, right, that really says like this is how important it is. I woke up to a call this morning, right, more of our women being assaulted in ways, and having no other resource, right, than to go to a law enforcement that may or may not put in the efforts to help her get the justice that she feels she needs. And justice looks a little different for all of us, right? And so I just wanted to really try it's really difficult to try to narrow everything about us into a time slot, but we do the best that we can. And that's the reason why we show up. And that's the reason why it's extremely important for funding to get to 7 dancers. It's extremely important for you to be able to take a look at Michelle's work with rematriation. It's important to embrace the culture that Louise has been able to preserve and pass down to many of us, because that's exactly what it's going to take, all of that and then some. I would also like to acknowledge the men on this call, because more often than not, it's women picking up issues and cleaning up things as the result of violence from men. And so any man that steps into a room that addresses violence against mothers, that addresses violence against his sisters, against his daughters, it is extremely important for you to join this fight and us to be at the forefront, to say, as a man, I will no longer tolerate this behavior from my son or from anybody in my family or any friend or foe, because we can no longer afford for this violence to perpetuate um, and get into places within our families that tear us apart. So it was very strategic upon the government to dismantle our families through any means possible. We are talking about an apocalypse of indigenous people. So the reason why you don't see as many of us, just imagine this whole continent was full of our families and our people, and we are struggling today to say, hey, we are still here, and I still need help, and I still need you morally to take it upon yourself to protect me and my children, because unfortunately that has failed every generation before me, with every president, with every person that comes into a place of power and abuses their authority and continues to wash us away, to not have a response, to ignore us. But you know what? For the most part, we take every moment and every day with what we have and what we can take. And so I sit here and in our agreements and our contracts, right, that we said in those agreements with those European peoples, that we embraced, that we took the time to educate, that we hosted. We said, as long as the grasses grow, as long as those rivers flow, as long as creation continues to live, this is my agreement to you. This is what I have to offer. This is what I can give you. And that's the kind of love that you were met with. And all we are asking, all we have ever asked, is to be met with the same love, the same respect, the same due diligence that we so freely, so willingly gave to everybody else. And so it is important to be that voice. It is important to feel these things, because this whole world is trying not to feel, and it is within those feelings that we can rise, that we can awaken, that we can push, because everything moves with emotion, and women are full of it. Every one of us, we are made to feel and evolve. And so I'm asking you, on that personal, intimate, woman to woman, sister to brother, can make that obligation to yourself, because it's real. There are some of us on these forefronts drowning in rape, drowning in violence, children, families. This is a pandemic long before uh, pandemic became a casual word to throw around. And so, this is everything that we continue to live and try not to have to raise our families in. But that's the reality of this situation. And so, and for the most part, you know all I can do is extend that hand, open that door, and say, I'm here, I'm willing, help me, help somebody else if you can. But as long as you continue to vote for people that don't prioritize us, as long as you continue to support conversations or not say anything in them, it adds to the problem. And so I just wanted to, say, I don't even know how much time I have. I just pulled over on this side of the road and tried to contribute to this conversation, because have to. I have to, because I do it for my daughters. I do it for Louise's daughters. I do it for Michelle's sons, right? And so part of this is, how are we going to get back to these men? How are we going to raise our sons to carry themselves in a way that talks about true integrity, that talks about true honor, that says your role and responsibility in this lifetime is to provide, protect, to procreate, and yes, sometimes punish. And that I need you to be here. All young boys, when I've asked them to grow, to be healthy, to be strong, every single one of them raises their head. Every single one of them puffs their chest. They want to be those types of healthier men that they were made and meant to be. And so I'm just asking you to think about those things, because that's the depth. That's the deepest tissue that we have to go to in order for us to heal in the ways that we need to heal. And absolutely, invest in all of it, whether it's time, energy, money, love, consideration. All of it is a currency. All of it carries value and weight. And so I just wanted to again thank you for allowing me to be on this panel, and for taking the time to hear us out, because we need it. We really do. And so even if you think of us while you're praying, or whoever you draw strength from, we respect you, and ask that much of you, that as long as creation continues to happen and continues to show up for us, that you will also do the same. And so I just want to again extend my appreciation, my love for all of you, and that we continue to really make this world the place that it should be, the place that it originally was. And so with that, I say go, and I thank you. And if there's any time left, Louise, or if I overdid it, I'm sorry, but Louise, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to share if you would like to.